Welcome to another episode of the UK's #1 trail running podcast, Tea and Trails. My name is Gary Thwaite, and like last week's guest, Hugh Williams, I do, guilty, hands up, I do take my smartphone into the loo with me.
I've just told Gary he can't start the podcast like that. I said nobody wants to be thinking of you on the crapper.
Close your eyes, kids.
Oh no, stop it. Episode 70. What the hell, Gary?
How did that happen?
How did that happen? How many hours on Zoom have you looked at my face?
Not enough, Eddie.
It gets redder and shinier as it starts off. When we start on Tuesday morning, it's really red, isn't it? Because I always do my intervals. It's redder. My hair's wet. There's a lot of fluid that goes in. And then as the podcast goes on, the red slightly tones down, maybe. I don't know. Always got a slight rouge.
I got a bit more grey than when we first started.
Yeah, you've got a grey tuft out of his chin, everybody. Out of his chin. I put a bit of foundation on the other night because I went out, Gary. I went out. I didn't not got foundation on now. Something I learned from Claire, who does the Ginger Running podcast, but she interviewed me at a race many, many years ago. And she had full, really nice makeup on. And she said she'd done some media training. And she said, you either go full makeup and then you always have to wear the makeup, or you go naked like us, Gary. And then people aren't surprised when they see me. Though actually the only time people see me is at the end of 200-mile races. So they maybe when they see me on the podcast, they're like, oh, she has got eyes. Anyway, we've digressed. This week, episode 70, we are joined by Joe Faulkner and Stuart Smith from NAV4 Adventure. Gary, it was an absolute joy. Trying to keep those two on track about a kit list was a near on impossible feat, but we got some nuggets. We got some more golden nuggets. Hopefully it helps you make the right decision when you're packing for your next race or just a day on the trails or in the mountain. We see what you've been up to on Strava, share a tale from the trails, and we have a pair of Sunto Wing headphones to give away. Thank you to our Patreon partners who share some discount codes over with our Patreons. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Velo Forte, Protein Red Bull, Tiki Boo, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Silver Sweden, Active Route, The Centurion Running Shop, Sportshoes.com, Big Bubble Hacks, X Miles, Full-Time Farm Cottages, Yugoku Projects, Hellfire Events, Red Bear Sports, The Album App, Retainer Group, Cycle Protection, Summit Crazy, Beat It Sports, Lumia Activewear, Phoenix Lights, and Ultra Trail 2. Extra shout out to Precision Fuel and Hydration, Velo Forte, Beat It Sports, and Protein Rebel. We use their products every month to help fuel, hydrate, and recover. We've got our new Patreon partner, Bridgedale Socks. Gary's already hinted he wants some for his birthday.
I've got them in my basket. I've got them in the basket. I've just not bought them.
Got them in the basket. 20% over on Patreon. If you'd like to save some money, support the podcast and our partners, please do consider joining Patreon. We couldn't do this without you guys. Also, pop over to Summit Crazy if you'd like to buy some Tea and Trails merch. There was some discussion about colours of Tea and Trails merch because everybody quite likes the orange, the burnt pumpkin, cinnamon spice, whatever it's called. They are in stock. You have to sort of search for them within the garment. Don't know if that helps at all. Go over on Facebook. Someone's described how to find them.
I think the orange for the T-shirts is different to the orange for the hoodies.
Hellfire, like a combination of oranges. You could just be a total traffic cone. Somebody needs to get the whole outfit. Buff, hoodie, T-shirt.
Every orange under the sun.
Team it with your red shorts. Oof, electric.
Oh, what a look.
I'd get that person on the podcast.
Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration and Silver Sweden for sponsoring this week's show. Super grateful for your support, and don't forget to pop over to Precision Fuel and Hydration and book in with the sports scientists, read some of their case studies or use their handy fuel planner. Lots of awesome stuff over at precisionhydration.com.
If you're a patron, you get 15% off, and anyone can get 15% off with their first order. Caps Lock T24. Caps Lock T24.
And it was another awesome.
Oh, it's awesome. Have you watched some of those videos on their newsletter?
No, I didn't. I literally want to go back. So we got links to articles on food fatigue, some tips on how to make your brain think you are not knackered, and how to outwit fatigue. I'm 100% going to check out the food fatigue article because, anybody who runs long, you're going to experience quite a bit of food fatigue.
I'm back on the electrolytes. Only the 200s at the moment. I'm playing it. I'm slowly introducing it back in.
200.
I know. I normally just have 200 for a flight where I've just lightly sweated during some light turbulence. But I'm back on the 200s, but I'm yet to have any sports nutrition into my gut. I'm like, oh, can I open a packet of gel shots yet? definitely not ready to take a gel.
So how many weeks out are we post?
Oh, it's a month. 4 weeks. You and Hannah Rickman gave me a bit of kick my ass into you told me I'm going to do 3 by 10 minutes last week. And then Hannah put on Strava, she'd done 3 by 10 minutes. And I was like, it's a sign. Eddie needs to do 3 by 10 minutes. Anyway, I did my first little mini session back this time last week, but I did 3 by 5 minutes. So I was like, Eddie just needs a mini session. That's enough. My heart rate was so high, Gary. It was but my breathing didn't match my heart rate. And I was like, anyway, it felt okay, but there's not a lot to give. But I thought, let's persevere. So then, do you know what I did? I did another session, Gary. I wasn't scared. And I didn't go a mediocre little progression. Oh no, I just decided to run up the mountain next to us and just see if I could run up it. I was like, I don't want a session. Like, I don't want to look at my watch and look at numbers. I'm just going to basically run up this mountain, and I'm not allowed to walk, and that will be the session in itself.
You said scared though. Do you get that sometimes when you go back to training? You get a little bit of training anxiety about a session?
No, not really, because if I feel tired, I'll just slow down. So I decided I'm just going to run up the mountain, and that was perhaps a little unwise, but why? It was fun. I enjoyed like bit of pain in the breathing, a bit of calf. There was a couple of bits. I won't be lie. There was a couple of bits where there's a steeper option or there's a like switchback option. And I was like, I'm going to go with the switchback here and just give myself a little breather. I did that, felt okay, man, it ran up the top of the mountain. And I was like, I don't think that's enough. I'm going to run down a little bit and then I'm going to run up to the next little bit. And this is where it all went wrong. The weather was awful. We've had really bad weather here the last week or so. It was really raining, but because I was running uphill, I was pretty hot, ran up to the next peak. Then I was like, no, Eddie, turn around. That is enough. And I felt good. And then, of course, it's like an hour downhill running in the cold, wet, muddy. I was like,
how are your quads at the end of that? That's
they weren't too bad because I didn't go hard down the downhill. I just like teetered down. But yeah, my knees were a little bit sore, I think. I had to send an SOS to Bryn because I hadn't started at home, to say, I'm going to need tea. I'm going to need that shower. I need you to work up a sweat in the bathroom. Get that shower on, shut the door. It took me like 3 or 4 hours to warm up over that. Stuart would be disgusted at me. I did not have the right clothes on. I was wet through. You know, we talk a lot in our chat and a bit about learning. I find it really hard is what to wear during interval sessions, especially in the mountains, and when it's raining, you get really hot. And then when you want to cool down or run down, you need more clothes. Oh, carrying your backpack, Eddie. Why don't you put it back? Because I'm trying to get 3 children to school and I just grab whatever. Anyway.
It's funny, when you're in the moment, you think it's very justifiable why you don't put the jacket on.
Yes.
But when you sit down and speak to Stuart and Joe, you think, oh, God, I'm a massive idiot.
God. Oh, we're such idiots. It's like being at the headmasters. Anyway, went back to the gym, actually did 2 workouts, Gary. Yes. I had to open the door in the gym because I was sweating so much. Still not on the biggest weights in the rack, but I was like, this is really hard. Just things like I took for granted how strong I was before Northern Traverse, like just the step ups. My heart rate was like 10 step ups with a bit medium weight. And I was like, I'm going to need to sit down.
Do you have a body imbalance? I notice my left pec is a lot more developed than my right pec. Is that like, would your biceps be bigger? Or do you notice stuff like that?
Are you asking me if I have a boob bigger than the other boob?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, no, you don't.
How's your guns?
I've definitely got one side stronger than the other side. One side, like when I do like a split stance shoulder press or something like that, I'm like, one side, I'm like, yeah, bust that out to a bit of Britney. And the other side, I'm like, I don't think I can see the muscular imbalance, but I can definitely see that I've had 5 weeks not in the gym. I'm not enjoying.
Got a nice left pec.
Have you? It out there. But right. The right, so I don't go for the right. If I'm going to go for a little tap down, I'll go on the left. So good back, couple of sessions, feeling good. Well, actually, I'll tell you what's happening in my recovery. And this is real, and I expect lots, but you have one run when you feel great. And then I have a day when I'm like, oh my God, I feel awful. Yesterday, I could hardly drudge myself up this hilly climb. It normally takes me an hour and 20 minutes, Gary, and it took me an hour and 40 minutes, this loop.
Goodness me.
Felt awful. I was like, it was snowy, and so that's going to slow you down on the top bit. And then, so I was like, I literally was dragging my feet on the way back and just felt horrible. And then I had to have a nap after that run. And then today, I did a proper workout, not just run up the mountain. I did a really hard, proper workout. No aches or pains, nothing. Felt great. Much quicker than, when Strava goes, you've run this section 8,000 times. So what is going on? And I'm sure that is recovery, like body still highs and lows. I don't understand how like Claire Bamworth can whack out another massive ultra a week later, 2 weeks later.
I don't know we've said this before. I think she does work, but I've got no idea of her life.
Yeah, but even if you didn't work, like even if you just lay about, I would not be ready. Some
people are just like super genetically gifted.
Anyway, I'm genetically gifted at taking about 8 weeks to recover. If you're a long-time listener of this podcast, firstly, big love. Thanks for sticking with Gary and me for so long, especially Gary. Bryn and I decided we needed to clear our attic out. Now, do you remember when we had the infestation of mice one summer?
No.
I mean, they were so bad. Do you remember they ate everything downstairs? And since then, we go into I don't even go into the attic because you have to pull out this stairs and then someone has to hold the stairs. I don't trust the kids to hold the stairs in place for me because they would definitely knock it over and watch me hang from the loft. So I don't even go up there. So I know. So basically we just take, when kids don't want stuff or we want to get rid of stuff, we put it up, and this is classic, doesn't everybody? Up in the attic, and we shut the door and it's gone. It was a sunny day and we had nothing on. We were like, we've got to clear out that attic because it's absolutely full of stuff. I joke you not, Gary, the most traumatizing part of it was the mouse poo and the dead mice, which then came. Oh my God. I had to clean the whole house because we had to bring everything downstairs and then downstairs.
Oh, no.
Evie and I have been watching Stacey Solomon's Sort Your Life Out. Oh my gosh.
Oh, we love it.
Almost love it more than Below Deck. And so we made recycle, bin, donate, but the donate and recycle sort of went into we didn't sell anything because everything was, oh my God, so mouse encrusted. It took us probably about 16 hours from start to finish to clean out. So cathartic though, but not a job that you can see because by the end of the day, it was like 4 loads of runs to the tip and 2 runs to the charity shop. Considering we've got a massive van, that is a lot of stuff. But it's stuff we've had the kids here from when they're babies. So there was 5 stair gates, Gary. It's like 4 potties, 2 cots, all their little sheets that went on the cots. Stop it. I had to be quiet. I was like, I can understand like now when I watch Stacey Solomon Sort Your Life Out, not sponsored, but I just really enjoy it. When they get really emotional before, Eves and I would be like, come on, chuck it out. And now I'm like, oh no, I get that.
You just end up not wasting time, but you spend so much time like looking at photographs.
We waited. We both had a memory box. And so we waited until the kids had gone to bed to go through our memory box. So I went through my memory box and I was pretty ruthless. I kept, Gary, I love my diary, and I've had a diary since I was about 17, and I kept them all. So I read them all. Oh my God. Whoa. Trauma.
The evolution of Eddie.
I said, Ben hasn't rung me for 6 weeks. I don't know what is wrong with him when I can just hang out with her. Britain's like, I don't think Ben is ever going to call. I don't think he's ever going to call. We're sorting stuff out in this box, Gary, thinking, do I want the kids to look at this stuff when it comes to the day when they're sorting out? I was like, there's photos of some pretty... Back in the day when you didn't really take photos. So they are photos that you've gone taken. What I did was nobody needs to see Eddie like that. And then they're like, I'm going to show that, Mum was cool. She had some friends, look, she's having a good time.
You can't curate it, Eddie.
I curated the memories. I was like, this is the image they're going to have of their mum. They're not having me lying on the floor in Durham High Street with a bottle of BK Van Rouge. Anyway, I got quite emotional. Got my wedding dress out, Gary. Bryn was like, put it on. Couldn't do it up, Gary. Couldn't do it.
Nowhere.
Yeah, can you believe it? I could get it on, so it's like a strapless. I couldn't do it up on my back, my lats.
Super muscly.
No, because when I got married in my wedding photos, I'm really muscly.
Okay.
I was like, how much more muscle have I got? And so it did have like a corseted boob bit. No, nothing there. I could literally put my whole arm down the front of it now. But I was like, what's happened to my back? Have I got a fat back? Then I spent all night going, Bryn, is it? Look, can you take a photo of my back? Is it fat? Can you?
Fat back.
Anyway, I've put that in. That's a box. Put away. I'll never wear that dress again. I can't fit into it. Anyway, I can do better things now. So all in all, yeah, good week. I walked about 80K. That was my aim, about 50 miles to get back into it, about 10 hours. Woo, good gym sessions and feeling good, feeling ready to, I'm not going to do as much mileage, but I'm ready to do some sessions, run a bit faster. I'm really enjoying not being so tired and being able to actually move a little bit faster when eventually the rain stops. I ran up to the snow line still. When are we? We're May the 7th and it's snowing. Snowing still. Oh.
It's like either snowing or raining at the moment, your weather intel.
What's occurring with you? Firstly, what have you, you're going to apologize for the fact, when did the podcast come out? Like
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday afternoon.
Hopefully back to normal.
Am I going to have to ask HR department to have a word with you about your program?
What's going on, Gary? Oh my goodness. Apologies, yeah, and thanks for the patience. Nobody mourned, which was nice.
Oh, there is a thread on Facebook. A few people have said, you don't pretend nobody moaned.
I think some people do prefer
comments.
Some people quite prefer the Saturday morning, but yeah, it was meant to be Saturday early morning, but it ended up being Saturday afternoon. Just life ran away with me, basically. Simple as that. But that chapter of my life, the workshop, is gone. The keys have gone back. So no excuses. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I said about 3 times 10 minutes, and I had a bit of. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about
it first. You made me do it, and you didn't even do it.
Well, this is partly why I asked you about training anxiety, because I had a bit of anxiety with that workout. It was 3 times 10 minutes. So that was quite a big 30 minutes.
Did you not think, I could have listened to Eddie when she said maybe do 12, 10, 8, 6, you know?
No, I didn't do.
No. God.
Got one of the top coaches, chat with you every week and I just do my own shit. Anyway, so on my plan that I'm following, it said either it's 3 times 8 or 3 times 10. So I thought, first one in, give myself some grace. I did 3 times 8. But then even that, because I readjusted all my paces based on my Manchester time. So my half marathon predicted time, pace per mile is 6:22.
Yeah.
And that was just like, OMG, I'm not doing that for 8 minutes.
So you see, that's why I don't get anxiety, because I never look. I just do mine all uphill, always uphill, and always on heart rate.
Well, fundamentally, I was in the right zone, this loosey-goosey zone, whatever I determined is zone 4. So what I did do, which is a change from last time, I put the treadmill on 1% because lots of people said I should do that, and I was running it at maybe.
You listen to all those people, but
yes, I listened to Robin Cassidy basically.
Fair enough.
And I went off at 6:35, but then I eased into that 6:22 for the last kind of 2 minutes of those 8s, just to get my leg. Because first, when anyone knows for me personally anyway, when I first start off on a treadmill, it feels really, really fast, like I'm out of control.
So it's almost scary, isn't it?
Yeah. So I did it, and it was a generous jog recovery, 3 minutes jog. So yeah, I was pretty pleased. Big workout, still 3 times 8. What's that? 24 minutes. Of graph, but fundamentally, a lot more running this week, mainly easy miles. 2 gym sessions, 1 on my own and 1 with George. And I'm still super strong, Eddie.
Isn't that different though? Because from a marathon, you just wouldn't have had that muscle breakdown that I've had.
Oh, yeah.
You're just not as tough basically. But yeah, you, and also because I think a taper for the longer events is so much longer. If I look back, actually, I haven't done hard strength stuff for 2 months, basically.
True. Yeah, I didn't really. Maybe
you
probably
always
2 weeks.
The guns flexing.
Always kept it going. But yeah, I do feel I got DOMs. The pecs are a bit sore still, actually, today. There was a few days ago I went to the gym. Lovely out and back over the Three Sisters. Yeah, you'll know that bit of.
Did you keep going, Eddie and me, when Eddie and I were here, when Eddie and I were
here? No, I don't think we did. But yeah, it was great. Chris is, and I think you met Chris, actually.
He
was on the Three Sisters.
Yeah, did he go, she wasn't very friendly?
No, we didn't. Chris and Dave, we shared some lovely miles. Yeah, we all had our snoods on 60 miles and 4,000 feet of elevation. Yeah, T-shirt weather. In fact, in the UK, it's been T-shirt weather all week. And I do obsess about going to the lakes for this 2-to-1, 2,000 feet for every 10 miles. But yeah, 16 miles, 4,000 feet on the moors.
Yeah, it's good. It's great. And it's such a lovely path.
Oh, yeah, very runnable. And Little Hundred, to be honest, apart from maybe Fusedale and Blacksail Pass, maybe I'm blanking on some others, but they're not huge climbs. So the moors, that section of the moors at least, isn't too dissimilar. But yeah, like I said, T-shirt weather all week, and that's super hot. You know what happens in the summer, Eddie?
The ice cream van comes.
I get a wet head. Normally a wet head is fun. No. Normally a wet head is fun times, but not not when I'm wearing my Sony goddamn headphones, because they drive me nuts. I don't know if you ever noticed.
I don't think they're going to want that in their advertising campaign. Nope.
The sweat starts doing like phantom presses on the headphones, so it turns the volume, turns it all the way down, or skips a track. Very frustrating, but not a problem. See this link? I'm doing it all. I'm such a pro.
I can see where you're going. I'm just not enjoying it.
Not a problem I have with the Suntour Wing headphones, which I am finally putting through their paces. Yeah, first impressions, very good. Clarkson Farm. I really don't know how the guy does it. I'm not a fan of Jeremy Clarkson.
Where's he going with this? He's gone from headphones again this week to Clarkson Farm. I can't keep up.
But I absolutely love watching Clarkson Farm. I used to love Top Gear. I'm really not even like the Grand Tour they do over on Amazon. I quite enjoy watching the guy, but yeah, for some reason I don't like him at the same time. It's a bizarre relationship. Yeah, we've got 3 on the go at the moment. We've got Below Deck, Race Across the World, and Clarkson.
Race Across the World's banned in our house. The kids won't watch it. They're like, it's all they do is get in cars, Mum. They're like, why don't they sell this thing that they're racing across the world like they're actually doing a race and they're running? Or they're like biking. They're not. They're just hitchhiking. It should be called Get in the Car Across the World. They're like, we're not watching it. And they're like, let's make a spin-off. And actually, you have to use your feet.
Have to race.
Like, it could be quite a long reality show.
It's going to be good TV, isn't it? But if you could only pick one bit of trash TV, what's it going to be, Eddie?
Well, all I watch is trash TV. So, well, I tell you what's just new on Netflix that I absolutely love and Bryn absolutely hates, but he'll watch it for one reason only, is Selling Sunset.
Oh, I'm with Bryn on this one. Shocking.
Oh no, I think you'd enjoy this season for if you tuned into it.
Okay. I'm not too sure what you mean.
We're not talking about the million property. Well, they probably are cost $1 million, but they're not the estates. They're not the property. I'd probably go Below Deck though, because we both quite enjoy that. We realize it's set up, it's reality, but it's also like, it's just incredulous, isn't it? What they have to do and how they live, and then how stupid they all are as well.
I love Below Deck.
How they can go and get those hangovers and then able to work the next day.
Do a day's work.
Absolutely. 4:00 in the morning, they're like falling down the stairs, doing all sorts of terrible things in the shower. And then their alarms go off at 7 and they're like, oh, yeah, a bit hungover. Up I get. I'm like, oh my God, that would take me 3 weeks.
But it's the only show we gasp at. It's like,
yes.
Love it. The whole family's engaged.
Oh,
bit of tech chat. I bought myself a wireless mic, so super excited. Like 11 out of 10 excited for little Gary. Yeah, really excited. So hopefully I'm gonna for little Gary. Hopefully I'm gonna nail, if I'm doing audio outside when I'm doing these reviews. Sometimes if I get too far away from the microphone on the camera, you get a little bit of wind noise in between. So yeah, fingers crossed.
When we actually take over the world with the podcast, what we need is a podcast studio, because it's really hard for people that agree to come on the podcast to get good audio unless they've got a microphone. Obviously, they don't want to buy a microphone for our, maybe they should, just for our podcast. But I see like slightly better podcasts, not better, this is a ridiculous word to use, more money podcasts. They actually have like a studio where they sit, and often, Gary, they're sitting on really comfortable sofas, which also I'm in.
They've got the big boom mic,
the big boom mic, and then you can sort of pull it around while you sit on the sofa. We could sort of have a kettle in the corner,
neon lights, TN trails,
a little neon light, TN trails.
Adam Buxton, I'm sure he sends microphones to his guests. That's a lot of admin. It's quite expensive too.
I mean, we struggle with just replying to WhatsApp, so let's just keep it as it's going.
Awkward. But yeah, fingers crossed. I'm super excited about that. For the week though, yeah, I think a pretty good week. 80 miles if you include some dog walks. 8,500 feet of
That's why the podcast didn't go out.
I know. See, I felt super bad because I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. Then I'm 4 hours on the moors with my mates. It's like, oh. But
we all noted. That, we all saw it. Yep.
I need the balance. So yeah, long run, quality session, easy miles, and some hench time back on the horse. But yeah, Brew with the Coaches is back. Long overdue. We've got quite a few recorded. But yeah, keep sending them in if you've got any questions for our coaches. And this week's question comes from Nicole Liger. Hello. Bonjour. You guys often talk about heart rate variability and VO2 max. I don't have a specific question, but I would like to know more about this. Could you guys have a podcast discussing the topic? How does one start to train based on heart rate variability and VO2 max? What is it, etc.? Could you guys share some resources, books, etc.? Thank you, Nicole. Oh, how do I pronounce that with the accent, Eddie?
Liger, I think.
Liger. Well, I don't know anything about the algorithm.
But you follow it.
When it comes to heart rate variability. But I do know because I'm with the Sunto infrastructure at the moment. And the numbers are different to my Garmin. However that translates.
Exactly.
I'm not too sure.
That's why it's all BS.
Well, is it because I remember with my Garmin that my heart rate variability numbers would spectacularly, accurately coincide with how I felt. Saying that, I wouldn't ever adjust any training. I would just use it as a comfort blanket if maybe I had a bad run, and I'll look at the heart rate variability and go, oh, that's why it didn't go so well. So yeah, I don't adjust training or anything like that. For my 2 pence as far as VO2 max is concerned, I would say you either need to do maybe a race so you could gauge your numbers. That maybe, you've red line maybe a 5K, not something that's going to put you too far in deficit for the week, or a proper test. Reverse engineer from those numbers, to be honest. And a book I used to use was the Daniels running formula. And I used to, my goodness me, I would spend hours and hours and hours thumbing the pages. Now, I know Russell is going to love all the tech, heart rate monitors, heart rate variability, VO2 max. Yeah, what do you reckon, Russell?
I spent a lot of time out training in Kenya with the very fastest runners in the world, the whole of East Africa. If you look at any all-time lists, it's very much dominated by the East Africans, but they don't put any information out about the way they train, whereas the Americans do. Lots of books written, lots of coaches with something to say. So I think that influences the way that we approach our training here heavily, and it doesn't necessarily make it right. It just means that's the information available. You can find out about how the best Americans in the world train, and they use tech, and tech is really easy to sell. And there's big companies that want to sell you stuff. And I'm not saying that it makes heart rate variability and VO2 max redundant. I'm just saying that there's a lot of very, very good runners out in the world right now not ever using it. And so that is something to consider. People love stats. I know Gary loves stats, but yeah, there's flaws. We're not robots, so there's always going to be a lag or a disparity there.
They do a lot of the studies based on basically a very small population, which would be maybe 20-year-old elite men. I wonder if then they work out the algorithms based on that. And then that's not basically, I see the demographic of the people who listen to the podcast, and they're en masse, not 20-year-old elite. Yeah. Well, I don't know, they might be elite athletes, but they're not 20-year-old men. Put it that way.
Yourself, Gary.
So I wonder then how you can really use that data if the group that they're compiling the data from isn't really the demographic.
Well, exactly. You're just making my point for me, Gary. These studies, they're always massively limited, by people have time limitations. These things cost a lot of money. You tend to get a lot more men in these studies. So straight away, that's something to think about. Whereas if you look at, sports science studies, women are heavily understudied for whatever reason. There's loads of reasons why you've got to take all this stuff with a big pinch of salt. And it really comes down to, at the end of the day, it comes down to what you enjoy and what gets you out of the door and what gets you consistent. If it is trying to push up your VO2 max and your heart rate variability, and that's the thing that you love, that's okay. there's so much to consider with it. Like, first of all, heart rate variability. Some people really show big disparities. If they're tired, you can see that on their heart rate variability. And if they're feeling really good, you can see that the way you were saying. And I also find that personally, although that I don't use metrics much, heart rate variability does show me I've been tired and I might need to consider backing off my training, and it can be useful. Some people, it doesn't really show up. They don't really seem to find much variability from one day to the next. If you know what heart rate variability is, actually how much space there is in between your heartbeats. And the more variable your heartbeats, the more rested you are. And the more regular your heartbeats, the more stressed you are, and probably in a position where you need to back off your training a bit. But like I said, people are completely different from one individual to the next. You can't ever compare your heart rate variability with anyone else. VO2 max is, there's so much conflicting science out there. Some people say it's a great thing to focus on. Some people are saying that actually you can't really train VO2 max all that much. If you take the famous example of Paula Radcliffe, her VO2 max never really changed her whole career, although she got a hell of a lot faster. So if she had just spent that whole time focusing on her VO2 max and worrying that her Garmin watch was telling her that, you know, it wasn't really moving, then she might have quit or retired. I don't know what she would have done. But yeah, everything else, she was a world record holder. She's probably, I would say, still the best UK female athlete of all time. So you just have to be really careful with these metrics and know why you're using them, and you're actually out enjoying, improving, and enjoying your running. If you find data and science helps you, then great. But yeah, just keep it, like you said, you know, it's something to look at and it's pretty, but it's not actually what's important, which is, you know, enjoying your running and hopefully improving.
Be careful where you do get that VO2 max metric from, or number from. My marathon time at Manchester suggests something like a 52 or 53 VO2 max. My Garmin watch tells me I've got a 62 VO2 max. So it's a bit of a hero number over on Garmin, to be honest. The reality isn't the same.
That's higher than mine, by the way. My Garmin hates me.
Well, there you go.
Take him down.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I've got to compete Russell on Garmin VO2 max.
Well, that's all it matters, isn't it?
Yeah. Screenshot that. That'll be my story, Instagram story.
So yeah, I mean, I'm very much with Russell on this. I love looking at my Garmin morning report, morning report, and it keeps me. I like comparing it with friends very, very much. It gives me great joy, which it shouldn't, because I'm always the one with the lowest numbers. So I don't know why. But I think, like all of these things, they're tools, but the most important tool is your body, which has, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. So I think it's much more important to learn how your body feels. And that's why I tend to use predominantly training to RPE, so effort level based training, and not looking at your watch, for heart rate, etc. Because again, there's so many things that could impact and change that in terms of, particularly VO2 max and zones and all the rest of it. It can be open a huge ton of worms. And I think actually training really is quite simple. And a lot of coaches will dress up stuff and coaching with using things like HRV and VO2 and zones. The reality is training itself is really simple. The basics of it. And if you stick to it, you will see progress. You don't need a VO2 max test for that. But again, these are all tools. And if you use them appropriately, they can all help you. I think it's more important to trust yourself and learn how you feel when you're running. And that's not just important for running, but that gives you a good foundation for all other aspects of your training and all other things in life, by trusting yourself, trusting how you feel, trusting what your body's telling you. That's skill. So I would say tune less into the computers and Training Peaks and stuff that's on your wrist, and tune more into your body and yourself, and that will give you a much better foundation mentally and physically to do well in training.
Nicole, don't let them put off you put you off learning about these things? Because we sort of said, no, you don't need to use them. And I agree with Trish and Russell, but I do think education is really important too. So if you want to know about heart rate variability and VO2 max, as you said, there is tons of stuff out there to read about them and understand them. VO2, I think Russell explained what heart rate variability is really well, but your VO2 max is basically the amount of oxygen your body can consume and use. The higher the VO2, the fitter you are. And it's a genetic based statistic. So you can naturally have, I am genetically gifted, and I have a really high VO2 max. If you've ever done a VO2 max test, I did a lot of them at uni. They are horrific, but
what is it?
Yeah, what is it?
There's lots of different tests.
We want to hear it. What's your
the number?
It's like 94 or something.
Lies.
Cross-country skiers tend to have the highest VO2 max, and theirs tend to be like 80s, 90s. You need to look at, and they are always Norwegians. Something to go
so
on.
I think the highest recorded it ever is a Norwegian skier, unless Killian smashed that recently.
Massive lungs.
I'm actually doing a VO2 test tomorrow, so I'll let you know what mine is.
Gary's going to do one. Gary's going to do one too.
Yeah, it's a free and it's with the university, so I'm actually.
Oh my gosh, enjoy that. Enjoy every minute. There's a place for them, but I think it's the sort of like 2-3% of extra. You can see why elites use VO2 max in their training and heart variability, where they've ticked every other box that they can, and they know their bodies really well, and they have 800 people looking after them, overseeing their plan, and it can. But when we're just, your everyday dishwasher unpacker, kettle boiler, kids homework doer, the headspace we have for our training just needs to be in tune. And I also think it's really important, if you're looking to do ultra races, to be able to tune into exactly how you feel. I have so many clients that worry about what Garmin tells them. And I'm like, what? Why do you care what this algorithm, which is wrong, tells you? Like, it's so important as long distance runners that we really know how we feel, and we're really truthful with that metric as well. So I would say, look into it, understand it. So important to understand it. See how you can train your VO2 max. You won't enjoy the sessions that you have to do to increase your VO2 max. See how heart rate variability affects you, so you can keep an eye on it, but I would never let it drive your training. For example, Katie Scheid, who won UTMB, a morning of UTMB, her heart rate variability had tanked to the lowest she'd ever seen it. And Jason Koop, love him or hate him, he said if that had been a recording she'd sent him the day of UTMB, he would have said to take a rest day. And then she went on to win it. So a little nugget for you. But Nicole, do some reading, learn about it, see how you might put it in your training. But as Trish and Russell said, just go by the feel, how you feels. And the Teen Trails podcast are all about the feels.
I'd just say on that, if you do want some good reading, there's tons and tons of good studies in the British medical journals. If you can get on that, there's absolutely tons of really good stuff there, and previous studies, etc.
There's a heart rate variability app you can use, which you can record your heart rate variability via your phone using your thumb on your camera, and then it gives you all these like different little articles to read, little research articles as well on there. I can't remember what the app's called. We'll put it in the show notes. Gala, remind me. But that's a good one if you don't want to wear, because I don't like wearing my Garmin to bed. I like to be free, but that's a good way if you do want to look at your heart rate variability and also learn about it.
Like another guy, I use Alan Cousins. Have you heard of him?
Oh, I love Alan.
Great. Yeah, Alan Cousins is one to look at. He understands it. Even then, I would say he comes more from biking and swimming, where it doesn't seem to be as many variables as there are in running when you're just actually doing a real sport.
I do love that point though, running to feel. I do hone in on the metrics. I love to train my heart rate zones, and I'm pretty faithful to that, whether I've got my zones correct or not. But Manchester Marathon, I think I scribbled down 144 beats on my hand, which was a metric not to exceed. And I think within 5K, I'd exceeded that. But I felt okay. So I kept chugging along and it was okay. So, yeah.
Oh, I found the name of the app. HRV4, all caps lock, 4, like the number, training. I used it for a little bit. It was quite good.
Personally, yeah, I think it's really hard. Unless you're going to go through formal testing, all these sort of derived measures, it's really hard.
But then as well, to actually use it properly, you kind of probably need to lactate test as you're training to make sure you're actually at the level.
Yeah.
So even if you do the test, then what you're going to do with the metrics, unless you are actually able to measure your lactate, and you have the Norwegians taking everything.
Even the little blood spots every now and again. So I don't think there's a lot I can really add, which is science, if you see what I mean. Yeah, it's not really my area, if I'm honest. The knees I can cope with, the 2 orange questions, but not this less so, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, we could all just circle back to just remember, just look out the East Africans, none of them using any of this stuff ever. Yeah. And they're quite good, quite fast, apparently.
Yeah, you go back, Ron Hill, I don't think he was doing heart rate variability, was he?
Steve Jones.
Exactly. No. Yeah, just run hard and harder. That was basically
no rest days.
Thank you for your question, Nicole. Hope the coaches helped. We've got some really interesting, you created a huge amount of WhatsApp chat in our Brew with the Coaches WhatsApp group about this. I have been plaguing the WhatsApp group, would you say, is that the right word, with different documents and studies I found on wearables, when to use them, how to use them. So if anybody's interested, shout me up. I'll share some of that with you. So much stuff out there. Education, and then take what you want from it.
This week, we are joined by Stuart Smith and Joe Faulkner from NAV4 Adventure. Yeah, a bit of a kit list deep dive. And yeah, it's inspired from our chat with Mike and Stuart a while ago. Hopefully, it just takes some of the pressure off. Kit check. This week, we are joined by Stuart Smith and Joe Faulkner from NAV4 Adventure. Not only event organisers, but they offer skills and safety courses too. You'll see them all over the country at events offering their knowledge so we can be safe as possible in some extreme locations. Hopefully, when you see them, it's with a brew in hand and not cragfast on a mountain. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing? First of all, you, Stuart, how are you doing? Not long back from Mongolia, if my memory's right.
I've been on Mongolia, and then I came back from Mongolia, and I'm not long back from Nepal now. I went to
goodness me.
And then just after that, I went to somewhere I'd never been before called the Quantox, which sounds like it should have an ointment with it.
And is that all in a work capacity? You're going out there supporting adventurers?
One was out on in Mongolia. It was on the rat race on the Mongol 100. Sort of temperatures down to about minus 35 or something like that. And then every space camp we sort of started off at plus 25 and ended up at minus 20 or something like that.
Just a typical day here. School run, minus 20.
What about yourself, Joe? Did I see your Facebook correct? You were on the start line for one of the Great Lakes 3-day events over the weekend.
I was technically a participant. I did what you call the extreme adventure class, which involved the use of my car and my bed. So I went home every night. I didn't actually take part. I registered. I had too much to do, too much going on. Yeah, I got a free entry, to be honest, due to my links with urea events and history. And I was hoping to take part, but life got in the way. So I registered, experienced registration and all that lot from the other side, because a lot of the time I'm behind the scenes, like Northern Traverse. And I just observed. I wanted to, not just prepping for this, I wanted to observe and watch people go through that process. So I had a good weekend, but yeah, Facebook lied. I didn't take part.
Well, you did the most stressful part, Joe. The kit check is the bit where I actually sweat through my jumper normally as I'm going along the table and asking for bit. Or did you? So we're going to, in this podcast, our sort of aim, but I'm sure we'll go off on many a tangent, is to go through some typical items on a kit list. Lots of the big races have started, so people will perhaps have already purchased some kit, but perhaps if you have got a big race or you're just not sure if your kit is right, we're going to remove some of that kit list check anxiety, which we all have, even though some of us have been through the mill, seasoned pros, done this many times. Still, when they ask for your waterproof jacket, you have a little sweat that you've got the right thing in place. So we thought we'd start with you, Joe. Why do we have a minimum kit list? Why is it there?
It's a very good question. I mean, I'm conscious you talked to Stu and Mike. I listened to Stu and Mike's podcast just recently. History. Let's go back to 1970. The Foreigners Association was formed in April 1970. And through the years in the 70s and 80s, they came up with this mandatory kit list, which to keep people alive and comfortable on the fells. I still see that as a starting point. A minimum mandatory kit. Event organisers worry about people getting wet, cold and dying. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about. Yesterday, I was talking to some of the response team who do deal with, like Stu has, people in distress and discomfort and near-death experiences. And so events have mandatory kit.
Keep you alive.
Yeah. And I grew up, to put a bit of context on it, I grew up with an event called the Longwind Hike, which is a scout run event, very much family connection. So from my earliest memories of that is being like a 6 or 7 year old and getting banged on the head by an enamel mug. I was in the scout hut and they were doing all these kit checks. And in those days, it was, it's a long time ago. This is late 60s, early 70s. And a kit list was put out. And it did have a woolen jumper and oilskin on it and bicycle light and things like this. But things have evolved, and now we have so much kit. This is why you guys, a lot of your listeners, are confused about what kit is, and we can spend hours talking about it.
I love it. And Gary loves a kit chat. What we've done is we've sort of pulled off. We pulled off a mixture of kit lists. We looked at the Centurion mandatory kit and the Lakeland 50 and 100 mandatory kit, and we've sort of merged them together so that we have a good idea of covering the country, in that a lot of the Centurion races, you're not going up into the high mountains, but it can get wet. It can get windy. You're going through the night if you're doing one of the 100s or the 200s. And with the Lakeland events, you are going up into the mountains. Different time of year in the summer, but of course that doesn't mean that you carry any less kit as well. So I thought, shall we start with probably the most expensive piece of kit people have to buy is the waterproof outer layers. Both kit lists say demand. You have waterproof jacket, waterproof trousers, Gore-Tex or similar, minimum 20,000 millimeters, taped seams. But actually Lakeland only asks for 10,000 millimeters. What's the difference? Should people be aware of these numbers? I'll hand it over to you to discuss waterproof. Stuart, do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, obviously a waterproof is sort of your final stage, really. It should go on when it's raining, as we talked about on the podcast previously. And
changed my life, that, Stuart.
I have had a few people sort of saying, I just take a windproof now, and to be honest, you double up a windproof or windproof with a small bit of pile of fleece inside it, and it's great. I've got lots and lots of pictures of me on various events when I was running more regularly, just in Pertex windproofs. But waterproofs you were asking about. The numbers important, I guess. That's the test. It's the only test that we were able to give it. A hydrostatic head is a column of water that would penetrate the fabric. So 10,000 millimeters hydrostatic head of water is a big column of water. 30,000 is even bigger, but it's obviously sort of pressure tested now rather than just having a column of water. Is that relevant? Yeah, there's a lot of sort of see-through waterproofs that are out there now that people are wearing, because they're marketed at 150 grams or something like that, and folds up smaller than your little finger. Is that useful? Yeah, on certain occasions. Is it not useful on most occasions in maritime climate? Yeah. So do we need to know about the numbers? Should people be sort of saying this is a minimum, or this is what, I read the Lakeland 100 and the Centurion kit list this morning, because that's the kind of anorak that I am. I hope you appreciated how I got that.
I'm impressed.
One of only two words used in our vocabulary, in anorak and kayak. Told you it's a learning day. So 10,000 millimeter hydrostatic head isn't as good as 20, isn't as good as 30. Hopefully you're being adventure smart and you're looking at the weather, you're looking at your kit, and you're deciding on which jacket you should be taking for that particular weekend or event that you're going on. Double up your waterproofs if necessary. I was up on Cape Wrath, and there's a lot of people who are using waterproofs to wander around the campsite with, and there's a lot of people using waterproofs out on the trail with. We tend to, I've heard really, really, and being subject to some really bad practice within waterproof houses. People just, I don't wear them, I've got skin's waterproof and all that sort of rubbish. I was kit checking at one event, and a lot of events that Joe and I have been at, probably work out where they are there, basically, but I don't want to sort of be party to badmouthing any event in that sort of sense. One event, a guy came along, he had to get his kit check form signed to sort of say, I've had a kit check. He sort of said, I don't wear waterproof trousers, never wear them. I said, well, I can't sign the kit check form off because it's I have to throw that on the form. I noticed he went round the corner towards where the shop was, came back and sort of said, I've got these off my mate, will they do? I said, yeah. And I just watched him again. There was something not quite right about him. I watched him again and he walked back round the corner and the trousers were still in the packet. And I said to the girls in the shop, has somebody just been in to have a look at some waterproof trousers? And they said, yeah. He said, they just wanted to show them to his mate. I thought, well, I'm not his mate, and he's just showed them to me. And I'm late.
But these things happen, don't they?
Yeah, and I just thought, how rude, how disingenuous to the rest of the part, to the rest of the team, to the event, and to the safety team that they're out there, sort of thing. I would have liked to have sort of seen that he was DQ'd from the event, but clearly, I don't think he was.
And I'm going to cut to the chase. I've been quite vocal on social media recently, challenging some imagery, challenging this sort of thing. And why? Because the jobs we do, we see all this, literally 40, 45 years of kit checks, the dodges, the wheezes. I've seen elite competitors challenge at the spine race about what is a pair of tights, what are tape seams, what is a spoon. So we've been there, but we want to cut back to something useful today. There'll always be this kit listitis trying to challenge what the organisers put out there.
Is it quite exhausting though? I don't want to be like, I suppose, dwell on the negatives too much, but is every event that maybe, you're involved with, Joe and Stuart, it's a big problem come kit check, people trying to bend the rules?
It is for some people, and you've both said you love a kit check. It's Marmite. I occasionally have Marmite. It's a frustration, but as I say, thinking about it more constructively, there is an arrogance or an ignorance to it. And the 13 Valleys Ultra, is and the 7 and the 5 and the 2. There's a kit list we've put out which covers all bases and all routes, and not all items are applicable to each event. There's a lot of words in that kit list because it explains things. So, quote, mandatory kit, waterproof jacket with integrated hood and tape seams. So there's loads out there, but it's got a hood and seams, and because it's got tape seams, it's probably got good cuffs, a zip-up chin and that sort of thing.
Can we cut back a little bit to the waterproof trousers discussion? Because I have this a lot with people that I would say 85% of people don't like wearing waterproof trousers. They don't
I agree.
Yeah, most people don't wear them in training. Putting them on and off is a faff.
Why is it a faff?
Because you have to put them on over your trainers when they're muddy.
Stop.
Can you say why are they a good idea to wear and to put on?
I see it. When you're running along, your quads are massive, and most people's are. And they generate a lot of heat, and they're dispelling heat. You lose heat for your quads, especially if you've got short shorts on and stuff like that. When you stop, they're the opposite. Cold sinks, they're radiators. So I think even the diehard fell runners, there'll come a time in their life, and it happened to me way back in black and white days, that stopping and putting your over trousers on, it stops the heat loss, stops the wind getting at your legs, and it has a layer. I'll tell you a story from Northern Traverse, because I want to keep this really relevant and topical. The last finisher on the Moors Traverse, and I did kit checks for all the entrants on the Moors Traverse, told me this story as she ate her pasty and beans and cheese, and said she realised that she was getting cold and she had to do something about it. She said, I couldn't stop where I was because it was too windy. Yeah? It was windy, wasn't it? And she said, so I found somewhere sheltered and I just put my over trousers on. I said, all right, yeah, well done. What was that like? She said, it's a bit weird on my legs, she said, but I couldn't be asked to take my shoes off, to put my tights on. So this illustrates exactly what you've experienced and what you've just said, Betty. And I thought this was really refreshing from the last finisher that she was doing it. And believe it or not, I'm quite a skilled counsellor, and I got her to talk more and more about her perceptions of kit checks and why she hadn't done this. And she went on to say, because no one talks about stopping to put their over trousers on in a blog. None of the brands put pictures out of stopping to put over trousers on in their marketing. So it is a skill thing. Yeah, it is a skill thing. It's a choice. It's a life choice, isn't it?
It's a simple thing, like having your zips undone on your waterproof trousers in your pack. So you can get thinking, I got to put these on, and then looking ahead and going, there's a bit of wall. Which way is the wind blowing? If I go that side, I'm going to be sheltered. I'm going to get them out. I'm going to be cold for the 30 seconds that I put them on. But when I do those zips up and I start moving again.
Be bothered. And that zips. And that's why we've said in what I'm looking at, I've got it printed out here. Waterproof over trousers, that's in the bolt, with tape seams, brackets, knee/ankle length zips recommended. Again, if we jump back to minimum kit list, podium type, if we use that word, minimum kit list, very rare to get zips in them, pull them over elasticated pants. Yeah, so I would want people to buy that mid-weight over trouser, not your race pant. Because when you need them, you'll put them on.
The cut of them is also important. I remember I think for a very long time, the on-cam leaf trousers were probably the best trousers around. They were sort of pencil shapes or pencil-ended shapes, if you like. We'd work that out quite vigorously, Mike and I, more so Mike probably. And we ended up sort of coming up with a trouser that a lot of people sort of looked at and would put on. And you could sort of wear it next to your skin without it being super clammy and all that sort of thing.
It works.
We forget that, on the last podcast that I was very grateful to be involved with, we talked about windproof jackets. We didn't really mention windproof trousers. And that, again, is something that you could just put on very, very easily. And that slide and glide thing of putting a pair of waterproof trousers over a pair of windproof trousers is easy.
Go to extremes, just not to confuse the issue, but a lot of the time, like the Spine Race or the Cheviot Go, having windproof over trousers would be absolutely brilliant. But because they're not on the kit list, no one uses them. So if people get sucked into the mandatory kit list, that's what you take, and you don't think outside the box.
Would you always recommend that, though? I know, like you just said, they're not on the kit list. I don't remember any race I've entered where it says for a windproof jacket or windproof trousers. But regardless of that, you would pack those two garments?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, if I go back to my own spine experience, I've had, worked for the spine for several years and then took part, got more sleep taking part than I did working on it. You've got luxury of that drop bag moving every 50 miles. So you can choose from a whole wardrobe of kit. And I've made an effort recently to put some photos back up on Facebook and social media of me taking part in these things. And you'll see me in windproofed fleece pants on the Cheviot Go. You'll see me in a Pertex shelled Krypton jacket, Cheviot Go, poster boy. You'll see me in adventure racing wearing windproof type stuff. I don't think there's any picture of me out there in a waterproof. We're talking about what your event organisers want, that minimum kit. Minimum mandatory kit. Minimum mandatory kit. Take extra kit, which you will wear. So why not have your waterproofs, very waterproof but light and strong, relatively light and simple, and will live in your windproofs, and then put on your waterproofs. And this is something that Mike and Stu talked about and has gone through on your podcast before. And I think what me and Stu are trying to do is say, that's the kit list, add to it, adapt to it, and think about how you use it and the skills needed to use it. And I say that girl, and I was talking to two people who were working on response teams yesterday at GL3D, who'd been on Northern Traverse, and they say it is, women tend to be more sorted, be bothered. Stu said about being asked.
The mandatory kit list is there, but your own personal kit list has to be so personal. You will never have the same kit list. You should never be carrying the same. You'll never be wearing the same as the person next to you, because we all run at a different temperature.
Different temperatures.
Women and men are different. So by just going, that mandatory kit, Centurion or Lakeland say that I should have, that's what they want for you to have to keep safe, the minimum. But it's the minimum, isn't it? It's absolutely, you still need to think very carefully about, especially if you're doing a really long race, because your layering system is going to change as you move through, not only as you move through the terrain, which might change, and the night and the day, but your pace will dramatically change for something like the Northern Traverse to the first 24 hours. So you're actually looking at a different kit system from the first half. And perhaps that's something as well, people might be listening going, this is blowing my mind. But it's also something you have to learn. So you're not going to go, I'm going to have it perfect the first time.
The frustration for me is we learn through experience. And so there's like some old dinosaurs like me and Stuart. we've learnt this for over 30, 40 years. And then we say, what's the best waterproof? You think, well, I think the blue one's the best, things like this.
Do you? I love a blue one too. Good.
Conscious of the time, you should move on to the mid layer. Now, this did give me some kit check anxiety for Dragon's Back race. I noticed Northern Traverse have upgraded their kit list too, and I think Centurion running. It's this basically this synthetic mid layer, and I think Centurion's 200 grams. Is that correct, Eddie? And Northern Traverse and Dragon's Back race with 300 grams. Now, I was Googling everything. I was weighing them, and then luckily, I think that mine was an rotor hooded jacket, 340 grams. So that was a super. Oh, I actually love that jacket. But I'm curious, first of all, what is the difference? If anybody out there, why synthetic over maybe a down version of that type of layer?
Synthetic is synthetic. Down is natural, obviously. So people have got sort of either lifestyle choices and things like that. And if I was a vegan, would I be wearing feathers? I don't really know. But equally, synthetic will work in all weathers, in all our maritime climate sort of thing. When I was in Mongolia, I was in minus 30. We'll go with minus 30. Generally, during throughout the days, I would wear a down jacket because it's a dry cold.
Yeah.
When I've been part of the spine and things like that, or when I've been doing many mountain marathons over the years, we're in a very wet, cold climate, as Eddie was sort of saying on the Northern Traverse on the podcast recently, which I listened to with interest yesterday, sort of thing. And it was it just works.
I'm right in thinking that a down jacket performs better if it's a dry climate, while synthetic will perform in both climates.
Generally, that's the idea.
Down is just useless in the wet. Down is useless in the wet. It's a fashion item. It's been great. Eddie lives in the Alps, dry climes. It's brilliant out there. And
busting the red piece on a bluebird day, a down jacket, nothing like it.
I own a down jacket. I can't remember the last time I wore a down jacket.
It's a very good to have in for a Cape Wrath Dragon's Back for a camp jacket, and then it's a lovely pillow.
I'll give you that one, Eddie. I'll accept that in camp, but
out actually exercising, and it also stinks if you exercise in a down jacket. It holds the smell so bad. Yeah, but then that might just be my personal.
Hydrophobic. We've had all this at Kit Check, so it's hydrophobic. I promise you. It's water repellent. The spine race, we had continental characters coming across, ski jackets, down ski jackets. This is my waterproof. This is my waterproof thing. And that's why I use the AI, because of the arrangement of this climate. Stu does a lot of travelling abroad. I'm not allowed south of the river or east of the Pennines anymore, so I'm far too grumpy, stay in the northwest. But, we have a maritime climate. That means it's wet, generally mild. Yeah, so I want kit which is going to keep me warm when I'm wet.
When would you put this mid layer on? If it's on the kit list and you think, but I've never worn a mid layer. When would the mid layer be part of your?
As soon as you get that inkling, right, and the stopping.
The gut goes. I'm a bit cold.
As soon as, all right, you think I'm running cold, yeah, or again something I've made a big effort in the last few weeks. Because aside of this, then I think I'm going to be doing something with a blog or a book or something like this. Is what are people not doing? And I think I'd suggest that there's a lot of people now, and it came back from the person who I got talking with at the end of the Moors Traverse. So she's done 80K, was it? And also a book I've let from a high-profile speaker, influencer, who I'll be giving some nudging quite firmly in the next few weeks, is a lot of people have done races where they get a checkpoint every 10K, every 10 miles, they get a drop bag or they get a crew. And people are not in the habit of thinking for themselves. It's a volunteer at a checkpoint. You're right, do you want to put this on? So I get your waterproof out for you, for your bottles. So I think as people go into mountains, I think, and I know this is controversial, it might be my Gerald Rattenham moment, that people are not thinking for themselves and thinking, I need to do this now. I need to go behind this bush. When I'm going through Bampton and I'm cold, going up to Northern Traverse, up to Shap, I need to go into this bush shelter and put my layers on.
It's super important. I remember coming off Gable once, and it wasn't raining, but it was winter, so it was cold. It was really, really windy, and I stopped. It took me a while. Hands up for that, but I did stop eventually and put that mid layer on under my jacket. and it was instantaneous. How much?
Yeah.
How
Gary,
much more
I'll never
comfortable I
forget you on Blakey Ridge.
Oh yeah, throw me under a bus, thanks, Eddie.
Or both of us, because we knew the end was 7K away. We didn't know it was going to take us
and
3 hours.
This end being 7K away, it cropped up in the conversation with my two learned colleagues yesterday. We talked about an hour and a half about all this. Once they mentioned I was doing this, and it is this decline. High profile. They have been dealing with and processing. Can't say too much because it's not been to the coroner's court, but over my lifetime of running with the FRA, I think there's been 7 or 8 deaths in races, and there's always been this like different things happening, but it comes down to not taking action. So Adventure Smarter saying, "Be bothered." I think Stu, is that right? Stu Smith saying, "Be arsed." I couldn't be arsed to put my gloves on. My hands were too cold. It was only 7K from the end. I was too busy on Crib Got to do anything about it. Yeah, this is all the thing. So stopping, especially when you're running with friends in a group or you're into a pace, actually stopping to do something is really, really hard. I get it completely.
And if you're the one that stops, we're all grown ups, and if you're the one that stops, then that might somebody else in the group might be wishing they could stop, but then they for some reason they don't feel confident. Yeah, no one wants to stop. So yeah, be that guy, be that person. Stop.
Slow down to go faster. This is sort of from an orienteering world in some ways. Stevie Birkinshaw, probably not the fastest runner in the world, but he's certainly very, very efficient and very quick. And he's started to sort of prove it. I was running along with him, and I just couldn't stay with him on one of the 4-hour events, sort of thing. And he's just very efficient over the ground. And he carries a cup. I've seen people in events carrying sort of pint milk bottles and things like that, and using that as and you just drink and go, scoop and go sort of thing. And again, it's a lot of. I guess we can talk about the bricks and mortar. The mortar, the sort of bricks are your waterproof jacket, your map, your compass, your whistle, blah blah blah. And the mortar is like how to use your cup, how to use your map. I've seen people having to stop, take the map out of the bag, unfold it, refine themselves, and you can just thumb the map if that's a term that's new for you. It's a bit of jargon. You can explain that as well. But thumbing the map, so you've got the map all the time. All of a sudden, you know where you are, sort of thing, and it just saves minutes.
I jumped back to this mid-layer thing because I also, one of my observations is that the brands and the industry generally have been brilliant in the last 20, 30 years at selling us, and we're all victims of being sold things. Base layers, wicking base layers because it makes you look good in the gym, it wicks you away, keeps you hot, keeps you cold, keeps you fresh, whatever, and waterproofs. And mid layers are really just not sexy. They're becoming sexy now, but they haven't been sexy. So I took part in an adventure race a few years ago. It was 40 hours, called the Sprint in the Yorkshire Dells in Easter. And it was quite wintry, quite cold. And a lot of racing teams, because it was only 40 hours and it wasn't 4 days, a lot of people going fast because of the word sprint in it. It was a Terex Sprint rather than Terex Sting. And a lot of people got cold. And I wrote, well, lack of mid-layers. And even the organiser, James Thorlow, open tracking man now, also adventure. Can you explain more? Can you expand on this mid layers? And basically, he's putting layers on in the middle between your base layer and your waterproof to keep you comfortable. So now we're discussing the 100 gram, the 200 gram, the 300 gram. So Shane's moderated his kit and moved an item from adverse into normal standard kit. It's all printed out here. Been through this process of thought with the 13 valleys. I think you mentioned a few years ago, Lakeland 100 decided you have to have a set of base layers sealed up in a plastic bag. So when stopped and retired, this comes from when you stopped and retired at a checkpoint whilst waiting for the bus, you had something to put on. Peel this back. Why are you not putting something on earlier? Yeah. So having something sealed up in a plastic bag for emergency use only is de-skilling people to say, right, I'm going to put my woolly jumper on now. I'm going to stop and put this lightweight microfleece yilly on because it's just going to keep me warm and comfortable for the next 20 miles until I get to X and Y. So these mid layers are confusing, but that's why we need them. And that's why we want people to think about them. But unfortunately, we're we're hanging on the organizer to say, you want this one, you want that one.
Well, it does do that. And I understand they have to throw out a number out there, a certain weight. But all it did was send me down quite a stressful rabbit hole to buy a certain one that would satisfy kit check. But yeah, from my point of view, we kind of need to move on to gloves, but 100%, even though a lot of races, I don't think Lakeland 100 has this synthetic base layer. Hardmoors, I'm not too sure if any of their events have
It's
it.
not a base layer. I'd say what you need is mid layers, so you can quickly put them on. If we're going towards the longer races and the expedition races, you want something to go over the top. So Primaloft jacket going over a mid layer. 13 values, we're looking at having some 2 layers of that, and I'll come back to a thing what I call onion skin. So you start with adding layers on as you get cold, and ultimately you put everything on and keep your waterproof on the outer. One of the mistakes people make is, they put the warm layer on top of the waterproof because they couldn't be bothered too cold to take your waterproof off. So managing those layers, yeah.
That works in certain circumstances, so you're not taking a layer off to get cold and expose yourself to wind or whatever it is. Paramore, for example, use that sort of analogy and system of overlayering, and therefore you keep your microclimates close to your body. Even
if it's not on the kit list, I would go for a synthetic base layer. Yeah.
Base layer, mid layer.
Sorry. Mid layer. I would go for synthetic mid layer.
Whichever you want.
When I finished the Northern Traverse, I finished it in a base layer, then an Omcore fleece, then a synthetic over jacket, and then I had my down jacket on until about not my down jacket, my windproof jacket on over the top of that. So what's that? 4 layers that I had on, and I was. It was a beautiful day. Most of it, but that was just about right. So what's that? 4 layers, 5 layers, probably 5 layers during the night.
That's your underwear.
Yeah, you're tired, and you're sleep deprived as well. So that's
and you're massively calorie deficient as well. So your body's not body is not creating. So if you are thinking of doing like something like the Northern Traverse, a really long, where you will have been outside for a long time, the minimum probably is three layers you're ever going to be in, and you're wanting to have five layers, I would think, to be, which sounds ridiculous, but
it's not ridiculous. No, it's not ridiculous at all.
You can have 5 layers, but practice with those 5 layers. Make sure that they do go over the top of each other and they fit quite well, because it's not just about there's a function and a fit. We talked about 5 Fs, I think, previously. Function and fit have to go together. If you've got all 5 same sort of size layers, 5 Helly Hansen base layers we'll go with, or string vests, we've not mentioned them yet, and all of a sudden they don't fit over the top of each and they don't slide and glide easily, you won't be asked doing it.
As a woman, I found the mid layers have to be a size bigger than my base layer, or what I tend to do is I get 2 mid layers, one my normal size and one the size bigger. And then I've got one for when I'm not so layered, and then I've got one. I realise that's an extravagance, but it's all, if you're going to pay a big race entry, you're going to pay for all the for everything else that it involves to pay the extra £100 to have options of different sizes. But it is annoying because it's trial and error. So you might buy something and then realise it doesn't fit.
The answer is one of these is to I know online shopping is all the rage and it's a new fad, but if you go to a quality outdoor shop where they do other stuff than just running, like Needle Sports, for example, the climber shop in Ambleside, Kidit, they'll have a bit more of a wider spread of garments and appeal and knowledge. And they'll know that, oh, right, you want a waterproof to run the hills in winter. So you've got different choices. They've got pit zips, they've got mesh line pockets, this sort of thing. I'm very conscious that a lot of people listening to this there might be 6 million people who are Centurion runners and another, Lakeland 100, and they're probably rolling their eyes and turning off at this point. But if you are doing those longer races, then you need kit suitable for the mountains, not the towpath.
Yeah, well, you've got to get the right kit for the race that you're doing, don't you? Shall we move on to gloves? Waterproof gloves.
Easy.
The terror of most people's life, because most people don't want to wear them.
Gloves are fine. They give you some dexterity. Power stretch gloves are probably better, but they don't work very well. Mittens are even better, but then they don't get the dexterity. but none of them are going to be waterproof. There's a big hole in the top, and water runs down your arms via gravity and all the rest of it, and fills up your gloves. And, you've got to have sort of several different pairs of gloves, really, and be able to keep the wind off. So a windproof pair of fleece-lined mitts would be ideal. Put a pair of power stretch gloves on. Leather palm gloves, maybe, if you're using poles and all the rest of it, sort of thing, might be a bit more useful for you. But gloves are just, I agree with you. Obviously, I can, I've just been working in -30 something or other, and I was wearing one pair of gloves. I became a little bit more acclimatized and accustomed to using one pair of gloves over a few days. We don't get that option generally when we're out.
I don't think I've ever found, even gloves that are marketed and sold as waterproof gloves, they've never ever been waterproof.
The book, the Outdoor Gear Coach Keeping Dry and Staying Warm book that Mike and I were on previously about, research on gloves, I was looking who uses gloves a lot. Outdoor instructors use gloves a lot. Window fire personnel, trawlermen. And they became, I started to wear some trawler style gloves, and they've become sort of fashionable on the winter events and things like that, longer distance winter events. And a lot of the Japanese are wearing them, and they're coming over. So that is the fact that the trawlermen's gloves are the thing to wear. Trawlermen aren't working at the same endurance working they're standing around on a wet, cold deck of a ship or whatever, and working with cold, wet fish all the time. We forget layers for our hands. We forget about layering up that system. I could get away in -30 with a pair of, keep going on about power stretch. I think power stretch is probably one of the fabrics that does actually work. You can test it, blow through it, put water on it and see how it does work. It's very, very versatile and very durable. And I can wear a pair of power stretch gloves, so they're my contact gloves. I take my big mittens off, and I can do my zips up and all that sort of thing. I'll do some fiddly jobs that I have to do. Put my on.
Right, the VP, as I say, I jumped in the back of the car because it's got basically not my race kit. Don't race anymore. Year-round kit, right? These gloves. Waterproof glove. Gary's quite right. Nothing's waterproof, especially a glove. Because even you've got a waterproof, can you see this? Waterproof over mitt like this. This is a really great big hole here. The water goes in. It's quite useful because that's where your hand goes in. Seals up, and you've got a waterproof glove. The brand is irrelevant, but it's got a nice. These are about 15 years old, so they wear quite well. It's just a Gore-Tex outer. This is what I've used all winter and all summer. Got cold fingers, just straight in. There's no liner in there. So in Scotland in winter, walking into a Munro, got my poles on, walk, and of course poles make your hands work harder. Inside, then what are these, Stu?
Oh, I call them as the freezer.
As the gloves. Yeah, go down to B&Q or whatever. Synthetic, stretchy, thin gloves, $4.99. You go to climbing shop, you go to outdoor shop, cut the tips off. See that? Cut my tips. That's the right-hand glove, so I can use the screen. So I actually cut the tips off these because I lost the pair where the tips have worn away. So I can do things with my screen if I need to. 10 pairs of them for the price of some other gloves. And then for years, Fontaine Extreme mix.
Yeah, so I've got those. They're the best.
Fibre pile line. So this stuff, believe it or not, it's still quite warm when it's wet. Yeah, and you've got the windproof outer. So I would say, and I'm hoping, you've got to have mild weather gloves, waterproof gloves, and cold weather gloves. And then between those three things, so when you were in the boot of the car, you've got all bases covered. Now, if I was doing Northern Traverse, the Cheviot Goat, the Spine Race, the Dragon's Back, Leighton 100, two out of three of those would go with me. Waterproof gloves, over mitts. And of course, you can have the inner inside the outer. If that gets wet, get a second pair of inners. But a lot of this outdoor kit, it's outdoor kit because it's designed to work when it's damp. Northern Traverse, for example, hopefully it's not raining all the time. These stuff would dry out as you generate heat. So when it stops raining, you get those lighter spells. That's why the windproofs and the drying out process is really important.
It's like slates on a roof. If the slates on the roof don't fit right, water comes in through your building. It doesn't come and hit the gutter and run away. You have to be able to put your mitts under your cuffs of your jacket whilst on the move. Possibly you've still got your There's a lot of poles that have got sort of a glove insert with them now. They clip in and clip out sort of thing. All these things are bits and bobs to practice with. Again, it's more mortar around the bricks of all the other kit and faff that you've got to look at sort of thing. That's not odd faff. It's all part and parcel of the same game.
It's about not getting frustrated, isn't it? When something like the Northern Traverse, where the weather is so changeable and you're going from really wet, then dry, then it's my God, it's raining again. It's about just being patient. Yeah. And if it's raining on you, it's going to be raining on every single person, and you spending that time changing your gloves again, even if it's 20 minutes and then you've got to change your gloves again, it means you're still going to be eating. It means you're still going to be making good decisions.
So we agree gloves and fingers are very important, because if your fingers go, you can't do anything. It's well documented to a lot of the hypothermic cases, and too cold to take you undo your zip. Yeah, too cold to do up your zip, that sort of thing, too cold to eat. So this finger health is really, really important. But Eddie, if you're doing like Northern Traverse, it stopped raining and you're quite warm, are you putting your wet gloves on to dry them out? Are you actually working to say, well, these gloves are actually quite damp now, but if I wear them and dry them out in the brief period of sunshine, then they'll be okay for later?
I actually had a little clip and I hung them on my bag because I couldn't bear, is that wrong? But I couldn't bear to keep the wet gloves on any longer than I had to.
On the podcast that you put your clothes underneath your sleeping bag when you went to sleep. I think that's probably a rich.
Yeah.
And I think that is something, again, that's learned experience. It's not something actually taught. We're not taught about how to go camping and our sleeping strategies and things like that. And certain sleeping strategies on an event where you think, I've got to keep going, got to keep going, got to keep going. I think that is a great way of sort of getting your kit warm, dry. I'm going to say sort of drier. It's still a bit manky, and it's still not quite right. So hence a synthetic sleeping bag. So if it does get wet, Buffalo many, many years ago would show a bloke floating around in a lake. A bloke that both Joe and I know called Alan, who used to have like a little pipe, and he used to just float around in the lake, sort of thing. And just to prove that this kit would work in wet weather, basically. And I think that's some, like your comment there about, I just put my sleeping bag, put my wet, damp kit underneath my sleeping bag. I thought that was ideal. I might have put it on top of my sleeping bag.
I think I put it inside, actually.
Better, like polar and high altitude people have learned that sleeping bags have to have good foot boxes on them so you can keep your boots dry, or your inner boots dry, or put your socks against your body and then press them on with another base layer or whatever it is, sort of thing. And it does feel for a bit of a manky night's sleep, but equally it's like 2-day mountain marathons. Putting the same pair of socks on for some people is a no-no. For other people, you just put the same socks on because within 5 minutes you get wet through anyway, basically. You might as well have dry socks that are weigh a little bit less in your pack. But if you do really, really get cold, you put those on as well. Then having wet socks on in your pack and wet socks on your feet. And it's talking about mortar and bricks. There's lots of those little bits of mortar around the bricks that you can learn from and gain your experience from. And it is just going out there. And we talk about fails, and I don't think that they are fails. I think they're futures, and you look forward to those futures of, can learn this from this. I resent that link to that video that we spoke about Ian Stewart Helen in Scotland. Why reinvent the wheel? Watch what those guys have done and see how you put your fingers in that 30-minute.
Do the do.
Ian his jacket within the 30 minutes he'd just been sitting there and things like that and needed help. If you do know Ian, ask him about the behind-the-scenes stuff that went on as well. So I think, because obviously it's been edited up, but there's a lot of things that we could be doing over and over and over. There's a phrase, isn't there? Perfect practice makes permanent, and if you go out and practice perfectly, it will become permanent. It will become ingrained into you a little bit more. Mirror signal maneuver if you're a driver and all that sort of thing, isn't it?
It's a powerful video, that, Stuart. We'll share a link to that actually in the show notes if anyone hasn't seen it. I know it's very popular over on YouTube, but yeah, well worth a watch. Yeah, I'll try not to get my mid and my bass confused. I know I did that quite a lot last time. But again, there's synthetic and natural. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got this lovely merino wool long sleeve tee. And I would use that maybe more of a hiking, or if I was moving slower. But if I went for maybe more of a synthetic material, if I was running higher energy activity, Is that correct?
That's an interesting description, Gary. Why we chose the merino wool? Because it could be alpaca, it could be cashmere, it could be yak, it could be anything. It's just wool, and it happens to be a brand of sheep called merino. But why we chose that for a slightly slower activity rather than synthetic?
I saw something on Facebook recently about an event, and it said ultra running, the art of walking dressed as a runner. We are dressing as runners, but in reality, we're getting into the mountains and slowing down, and we need to think like mountaineers. Mike said it. And so that's what we're trying to do. And that's the frustration I have when people rock up at TDH, and we haven't talked about what we actually do. And they say, well, this waterproof was okay for the XY 100. And I said, oh, what was the XY 100? Because there was a time when I knew every single event in the country. And it was 100 miles in August. I think, well, you're doing 37 miles in December. This mandatory kit list thing is never going to be, we're never going to nail it.
Just as an example of the kit checking, at least on the tour of Helvellyn, I was kit checking somebody at 6 o'clock in the morning. They came along, as Eddie was saying earlier, kit check nerves, kit check this, that, and the other, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I sort of said to them, "Your sandwiches, please." And they got everything out of the bag and sort of said, "Oh, I've got cheese and ham. Why do you need to know about what's on our sandwiches? It's not on the kit." I said, "I've just seen everything out of your bag. And when you can't be asked to eat that sandwich, I'm out there to eat it for you."
We've all seen this, and we've had literally 40 years of kit checks. I worked for a long time, took part in a Longmynd hike for 25 years as a runner. But then I'd work as a kit checker as well, and the runners in the event would gravitate towards me because they knew I understood their mindset as a runner. There's a great line in Mike Cudahy's autobiography, the first guy to run the Pennant Way, less than 3 days. Talks about the Felsman hike kit check. He took his tweed trousers and his woolly shirt and all this lot, went through the kit check, threw it back in the car, and took stuff which he knew he would be comfortable in, but also met the grade. So if he was kit checked on the way around, he said, yeah, this base layer and this thin fleece will pass. The other side of that coin, using the Felsman hike, they're now up to 7 layers, 7 upper body layers is on the kit list because too many runners are getting cold and not using the kit or not putting it on. So a full circle back to this. Why are events doing mandatory kit and increasing mandatory kit? Because some people are getting cold.
In answer to Gary's question, I think the question is to ask yourself, why am I wearing or let's go for wool? Why am I wearing a wool top for my slower activities and I'm wearing a synthetic base layer for my...
I think the way I understood it, Stuart, is like the synthetic probably is a faster drying garment as opposed to the merino. And maybe if I'm walking and going slower, I'm not generating as much moisture. That's...
I get it's quite a lot. After doing research for the book, that Keeping Dry and Staying Warm book, another plug there,
sales are through the roof, Stuart, after the podcast.
yeah, exactly. I'm listening to the podcast as well. But something like wool doesn't wick, wool absorbs. So you're ending up wearing a little microclimate. You've got to be educated about how you wear your layers over the top and things like that. And you're now wearing something that's like a little mini wetsuit next to your skin. And you're then keeping that warm layer of water next to your skin in the same way as you would with a wetsuit. The synthetic layer wicks. Wicking can wick in both directions, so it can work up, down, across, inwards and outwards. So wicking is a misnomer. It's become a marketing ploy.
Yeah, technical. I was explaining this to 13 Valleys, basically, Innovate, Kong, Adventure. One of the staff, "Oh, you mean a technical base layer? Wicking, thermal base, it's all jargon."
So in essence, to your question about your base layer, I think, again, being adventure smart and having a look at that website and seeing what's on there, practice, and you'll never get it right. And that's part and parcel. But, we will get it as close as possible. And for your own safety, hopefully you feel the best that you feel in the kit that you're wearing. And it might not be right. It just might not be right for that occasion. As Eddie sort of said, we walk, on a longer event, we go a bit slower. We can walk through various storms that are coming through. You may know about these storms that are coming through because you've done a bit of research prior to your event, and you can work out hopefully when it might arrive and things like that. or it may never arrive, and you end up being with the wrong kit because what you chose to wear for that particular event. I think base layers are obviously the important bit. Underwear is obviously very important. I was asked recently about why is my sports bra still wet, sort of thing, and I thought, well, I don't really wear one, and I'm not really going to start to try and wear one. So
a good friend of mine who's over from Germany just recently works for Gore, and when he was at Berghaus, he spent a while working with leading runners and all sorts about sports bras and underwear and stuff. And some people put in the base layers underneath the sports bras.
That wouldn't be successful. I hope they're not going to market that.
Eddie.
You'd end up with a
no.
Why with a boob over your shoulder.
It worked for some people, all right, but let's not go there. So, I mean, one of the things that come through and listen to the podcast here is about doing it and being bothered. So, it's stopping to put something on or take something off. We haven't mentioned zips, pit zips, ventilation, base layers. We've gone through that. We haven't mentioned long sleeve, short sleeve. We have zip necks, brilliant pieces of kit. Unzip your necks, get air into the chest, roll up your sleeves, this sort of thing.
Previously, where cyclists are early adopters, if you watch what the hero is going on at the moment, you look at the shirts that the cyclists are wearing in all weathers, you look at what fell runners are wearing, or mountain runners, trail runners, whatever you want to call them these days. Runners overall are just generally later adopt nuances in kit.
I mean, spanning on down these kit lists, which I've got in front of me, I've got 4 different kit lists. I mean, again, down to the unsexy things like map, compass, whistle, water bottle stuff. We do these courses, and we started our navigation courses nearly 30 years ago for the mountain marathons at the request of Ken Ledward and Mike Parsons. NAV4 Runners has been going since 2008. I don't make an effort to market them because people don't have that much desire to learn to use map and compass anymore, but we're encompassing map and compass and GPS. And I'd like to offer something to people that these courses will get retitled Hill Skills for Runners, because on the course, we've always covered a lot of these kit questions that me and Stu have talked about. There's more than just because navigation for runners is so boring. That it's a dying art. It really is, unless you want to do orienteering about marathons or GL3D. Come along on a course. We'll set up a discount code. It's once a month, every second Sunday. I'll repeat that through the plug. Every second Sunday. We have done for 2 or 3 years. It's 80 quid. We'll do a discount code for tea and trails. And all these things, if you are still confused, come and do the course. And you'll get so much benefit out of it.
And if you don't like Joe and I, we'll give you Bernie.
You're not with me, honest. You're not with me. You're with someone who is. But you get the benefit. You get the benefit. So, Gary, if you're generally confused about your base layers and what a mid layer is, God help me, mate. Come over and do the course. Yeah, because you are an influencer.
I don't know about.
Yeah, we need you people to dismiss all this sort of kitlititis. You are the educators. You are the influencers. It's not about getting stressed before you kit check. Moors Travers, I kit checked all 19 people. There's only 19 in that new event. Yeah, I talked to some of them after you passed. Now tell me about your experience. They're all saying, "Oh, it's so stressful. I didn't know I was going to pass." It's a learning experience.
Do you want to do the quick 5, Gary, and then we can finish?
Well, only if you've got time. We could wrap it up now, but we do have quick 5 if you have got a few minutes just to do these last few questions. Okay, we're going to go from the top. First, you, Stuart. First question goes to you. Yorkshire puddings on your Christmas dinner. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
If I'm allowed Christmas dinner, Yorkshire pudding, even though it's got the slightly wrong title, because I'm from the Red Rose County. Okay,
Joe, for you, if you can remember, this is a tricky question. How old is the oldest piece of kit that you still use?
I thought you were going to say oldest Joe Faulkner. Well, I've just shown you a pair of over mitts here. Amazing quality. Oldest bit of kit, Dragon's Back, 2012 and 15. I use a sleeping bag I bought, which is down. Yeah, dry climate, down, which I bought when I was 16 and a half with all my Christmas money and my wages. Quality bit of kit. I still got it.
Okay, Stuart, over to you. Some local intel. I'm coming to the lakes. I love a brew, a cake, and a pie after a run. Any top venue tips?
Brew, cake and pie. Pie shop in Ambleside was always good. Pretty central.
Oh, yeah.
The Brew. I like to try and help the independents. So Threlkeld Village Hall is also quite a nice place.
Oh, yeah, we like that. Yeah.
Going on there. Honister is always a bit of a hit and miss one because, you know, the car park rules will be changing soon, I think, and it's nice to go and keep that place alive. Oh, man. Anywhere where you can sit down with me and hopefully, you know, what's this, buy us a cup of coffee thing at the moment, sort of thing, buy us a brew thing.
Either of you can, this all depends on your knowledge of the shop actually, but in the 1980s, I'm not too sure if either of you remember the shop, really popular shop at the time called Athena, and you could go in and buy posters. I'd be looking at pictures of Pamela Anderson, Arnie, Schwarzenegger, maybe it could be Agassi or Steffi Graf, which Joe's looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? Which posters are you taking home with you from Athena?
I was too busy in the hills, Gary.
Sorry, what was that, Stuart?
Never mind the bollocks, is the Sex Pistols poster.
Classic. Okay. I love it. Love it. All right, Joe, you can answer this one. Every week, you listen to the podcast, you know this, but every week, yeah, we will share the podcast and we'll pop some music over our Instagram story. You get the song choice this week. A lot of responsibility with this answer.
Song choice?
Yeah.
Joe's like, I don't like music.
Music.
What's the theme of the song?
George, 100% up to you.
What message are you wanting?
It's your choice. 100% up to you.
My choice. Oh, I have a Muppet song then.
Muppet song.
Yeah, because you've had Stettler and Waldorf on just now, so it's like you may as well have the Muppets. Phenomenon.
There we go with that.
There's some great music out there. But you know, let's
you chose the Muppets.
You chose the Muppets.
Yeah.
Wow, that went super fast. We could have another 2 or 3 shows. Yeah, we only scratched the surface.
Please get in touch and we can do something and hopefully try and be helpful. Get out there, put some mortar around your bricks.
Thank you so much, Joe and Stuart, for coming on the show. Always so much information. Could talk to them both all day. Always learn something new. You're going to do TDH again this year. Quelle surprise, Gary. Is this, do I know about this?
Basically, me and my bunch of friends, we've done TDH quite a few times over the years, and there's a bit of chatter in our group. Maybe we're going to go west. Last long run before Christmas, and then it's feet up, pies and beers. Not because you got a few options, basically. You do a race, or you do maybe something local. We've got Hardmoors have races local. Maybe they're sold out, I'm not too sure. Or you just go for a day out with mates on the trails. Not too sure yet, but yeah, definitely To the Hill of Ellen is in the conversation.
I'm a bit busy that weekend, but I'll share that at a later date. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Strava. I was singing earlier today and Evie said, could you stop singing It's Hurting My Ears So Much?
They're cruel, aren't they?
I was doing my really good singing voice too, Gary. It was my proper one. With the vibrato.
Oh. Is that ever good? Vibrato. Thanks, Silver Sweden, for sponsoring our Strava Club and Tales from the Trails. Don't forget, patrons can save a handsome 20% off over at silversweden.uk. Georgia Campbell, request to follow. So, yeah, we don't really know what you've been up to, Georgia. But, yeah, 64.7 miles of the week with the longest run of 18 miles. And, boom, heavy flex over 10,000 feet of elevation, 10,361 feet. Scott Jackson, yeah, request to follow too. But longest run of the week, 50 miles. I wonder what event that was, or he just had an awesome day on the trails. I think that does take the heavy flex of the week.
With my one pack, my one really strong pack. That's heavy, there's your Lakeland 100 call sign. One pack.
One pack. But yeah, 69.3 miles with, like I said, longest run of 50 miles. 9,181 feet of vert. Yeah, super curious. Scott, was that a race that you did? Lou Phillips. Looks like a great week for Lou. Miles with your pooch and some lovely looking trails too. 55.7 miles for the week, 13.1 mile of longest run. 7,920 feet of vert. Kudos to all our Strava Club members. And if you would like to be in with a chance of a random shout out, then yeah, join our Strava Club.
Back to Silver, who sponsor the Strava Club. They very kindly gave me a free buff she actually gave me extra ones at the start because I was like, oh, they're really good buffs because they're so big. The length of them. Look, Gary, it's enormous.
I like a black and white buff because it doesn't get so messy.
And it's a really lovely soft material. I wore this for the whole of the Northern Traverse to keep my little vibrato vocal cords.
I might go rogue. Normally I ask what colour people want the buffs when I do an order. And they're always orange every time, but I might go black.
You can't. Nope. No. I tell you what's good about that orange is that whenever they do race recaps and photos and stuff, you can see
who's got the snooze.
And now if I watch a race video or something, if I can't see a Team Trails buff, I'm a little bit disappointed.
If I see a picture and who hasn't got snood at a race, judgy shit.
Oh, really?
I'm only joking. Do we do Tales from the Trails North or South today?
Oh, well, accent? Or I thought we had one from the north, one from the south.
Only got one, but should I try and do a southern accent?
Oh, yeah.
Tales from the Trails. That's like Dick Van Dyke.
It's Dick Van Dyke. On your chimney swept, Tales from the Trails. I think you had a slight Australian tang as well.
It was a bit Australian. I'm rubbish at accents.
You're not. Dear Eddie and Gary, first of all, I absolutely love your podcast. I've tried to listen to other running podcasts. Well, that was silly, wasn't it? But nothing compares to your guys' sense of humour. I laugh out loud every single episode. I always enjoy listening to the Tales from the Trails part of the episode and often think about which tale I would share. Until recently, I didn't have any I thought were worthy. This tale is set on the beautiful, challenging and technical Cape Chicanecto Trail in Nova Scotia, Canada. On this particular weekend, I had planned to make the 2.5-hour journey from Prince Edward Island, Canada to Cape Chicanecto, where I was going to solo run the 50k trail loop in one day. Brilliant. This would be my 6th ultra. The previous year, I'd hiked the trail as well as participated in the 50k Chigi Ultra, so I was well acquainted with what lay ahead of me. On Friday, I knocked off work, packed up my car and headed off. I arrived to meet up with a lovely local man who runs a tour company down that way, who's also an incredible ultra runner, as he was letting me camp in the back of my car on his property for free. After a lengthy catch-up and a quick bite to eat, I got myself organised for my run the following day and settled in for the night. I was both excited and anxious. It is important to note that I found my love of trail running while living in New Zealand, a place that has no wildlife that is life-threatening. So when I relocated back to Canada, I had to take into consideration the variety of wildlife we have here. Thankfully, on Prince Edward Island, there is nothing large like bears. We do have coyotes, which can be dangerous, and for this reason, I would never run alone at dusk, and if I was unsure, I would carry coyote dog spray. However, there are bears in Nova Scotia. The coyote got my baby. Do you remember that film, Gary? No, it's the dingo. It's the dingo that gets a baby. Sorry, Nico, I digressed. That night, I dreamt that a black bear was trying to get into the boot of my car and eat my snacks. This made me begin to wonder about encountering bears on the trail. Previous 2 times I'd visited the trail, I did not encounter any wildlife. The next morning, I texted my mate and said I was dreaming about bears, and they replied, "I'll keep my chiggy black bear story to myself then." I seriously hoped they were joking. They were not. Anywho, I had my Garmin Mini InReach and knew if something happened, I had a few people tracking me, and if desperate measures were called, I could hit the SOS button. And so I began my 50k solo just after 7 o'clock that morning. It was a beautiful day, slightly overcast, but perfect weather for running. About 15k in, I came around a corner, and what I thought was a black bear, scared the living bejesus out of me, was a large porcupine with his spikes up. I think I gave it a fright too. I pulled up my phone and got a wee video to share on my Instagram for later. Oh, not that she didn't video herself doing a wee. She got a little video. Drop that in. Each to their own. I was just going to go with it. Each to their own. Carried on. Everything was going well. My body felt great. I felt strong. It's such a great feeling when you can sense how much the training you've put in has paid off. I continued running along, and now I'm over halfway down when I have to go off the trail slightly due to a fallen tree. Suddenly I look down and there is a snake. Holy crap. It gave me a fright, but I reminded myself that I was not in Australia and that it was harmless. Well, I hoped. I carried on. I was making great timing, so I decided I wanted to try to complete the run in under 9 hours. I'd raced it in 9 hours 10. I figured I would get in around 8:45, 8:50. I was about 2 kilometers from the end, running down the hill, when I looked up, and what did I see? A black bear. This was only my second ever sighting of a black bear. I stopped and a sound yelped out of my mouth. The bear looked up and made eye contact with me. Oh my gosh. I slowly started walking backwards, making a whoop sound. I have no idea why that sound came out my mouth, but it was loud. Once I was a bit back up the trail, I pulled my phone out and blasted a song called Love of My Life by Jennifer Lopez. If you're looking for a good rom-com, watch Marry Me. This song was from the movie soundtrack. Excellent. Thank you. I took a quick video, again, to share on my Instagram, and then continued to whoop and play the song on my phone as loud as possible. The bear was no longer visible, so I slowly began to walk down the track, whooping as loud as I could, and the song still playing. I continued to look around, and once I was far enough past where the bear had been, I took off running back down the trail and called my mum. I don't know why. I still do that at 37. Oh, so do I. Bless her. Safe to say, I survived my first encounter with a black bear. My first bear sighting was in a car, so it doesn't really count. I completed my solo 50K in 8 hours 54 with a 2,165 meters of elevation. Lots of photos were taken, and I can say it was the most exhilarating ultra I have probably competed. Can't wait to do it all over again. Much love and blessings, Nicole.
Whoa.
Right. So if you encounter a black bear, you need to play Love of My Life by Jennifer Lopez. It's probably on your Spotify playlist anyway, Gary.
That's in the Black Bear Survival Handbook. Jennifer Lopez. Thanks again to Silver Sweden for sponsoring Tales from the Trails. We love sharing your Tales from the Trails. Keep them coming in. Please email them to hello.
I very nearly sent you a voice note just going, hello.
Your vibrato.
My full vibrato.
hello@teaandtrails.com. We just sing everything, don't we? Every
Stop
intro.
it now. It's annoying. Stop it now.
We've got a 5-star review. Newbie, brand new to trail running, and just done my first half on the Malvern Hills. Absolutely love this podcast. It's all I've listened to for days now. Can't wait to do my first ultra. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Leslie Oscar via Apple Podcasts, Great Britain. Thanks, Leslie. Oh, first ultra. Fun times, exciting times as well. When you step up. I'm pretty relaxed. Anything over marathon distance, I will claim as an ultra. But where do you stand? Are you like the 50K? Is that you? You class that as an ultra?
Couldn't care less. Just get out and run. Just enjoy it. Gary, there's a lot of new podcasts, running podcasts out there.
I know.
There's competition in this. It's a tough market out there. We need you guys more than ever. You know those sad charity adverts? This is the time. We really need you to like, share, subscribe, tell your mates, get your granny's phone, subscribe on her phone.
Yeah.
You made me laugh.
Download.
A lot of episodes ago, you said, you were like, get in the chicken shop. Person that sells a chicken, subscribe on their phone. Anybody's phone. Just open up their Spotify, press that subscribe button. I don't know how that works.
Unsubscribe from other podcasts too.
Oh yes, unsubscribe from all their podcasts. So then all they have is this one. What are you listening to? What podcasts are you into at the moment, Gary?
Rest is History.
Is that your go-to? Like
when I see that's a new episode, that lights up my eyes.
Does it give you the tingles?
Yeah, I've culled a lot of running podcasts because it was just running.
Yeah, you can't, can you? Because it's just too much then.
I listen to there's a YouTube creators podcast I listen to, which is, I appreciate, very, very niche to people creating content over on YouTube. I listen to that. It's a nice, refreshing change. Yeah, still on with Coopcast. Trail Runner Nation, listen to that one too. They're like the OGs. My goodness me, those guys have been around forever. But yeah, my favorite has to be Rest is History. What about you?
Mine is
Stacey Solomon.
Yeah, you are going to be all mine when they come on, and even the kids are like, no, not that accent. I like the Therapy Crouch with Peter and Abby Clancy, but the kids are like the Liverpool accent. I like Newlyweds with Jamie Lang and Sophie, and
know who's
No, you wouldn't know. So I can say all this, but maybe other people might like those ones. Yeah, I like Adam Buxton. I like it when they have people on that perhaps you don't know and they tell really amazing stories. How to Fail with Elizabeth Day. Love that one. Table Manners. But I use my podcasts a lot because I work by myself all day. So I just like the company. I think that's how lots of
I
people
can't
feel.
listen to a podcast and try and function. Music for that?
Oh,
Radio
you see,
for that?
okay. So I can't have music on because music to me makes me want to dance. Whereas a podcast, I want to boogie. Whereas I just like the company, and I like probably why people like. They don't actually listen to what we say, do they? Hopefully they don't. But I like just the same. It's the same voices. You follow their stories. You listen to their lives.
We have deviated again, though. Please, it's super important that you leave us a 5-star review. It helps get the podcast in front of like-minded people. This must be the longest competition in history.
Oh my gosh. Like, we say it as if it's a really good thing at the start of the podcast. People will be like, you're just lying.
No, legit. They're there. Look, I've got them. There's the box. I've been running around in them, so it is coming. I am testing out the Suntour Wing headphones, and after I've done my review, like I've said, for week
After you've
after
worn
week
them for
after
6
week,
months and decided, I'm going to
after they've been on my sweaty head, we'll pick a winner at random from every legend tier and above Patreon. Had a lot of random chit chat. I thought we were concise last week, but no.
When you listen to it again, were you still, there was...
What have you got coming up?
What I got. Right. So back on it. I was a little bit upset about my wedding dress not fitting. So even though I laughed. So I was like, well, do something about it then, Fat Eddie.
Oh, wait. Don't say that.
So back on the training game. Come on. This is enough now. So this week, 3 gyms, done 1. I might do another one today if I've got time. I'm not sure. Back on the bike, Gary. I loved training on my bike, but I haven't done it for a while. So it was a bit of a barrier. I was like, it's going to be so emotional getting back on it because it's going to be awful. And I was like, get over that. Get over that. That's what you tell other people. Just get back on, start pedaling. Always feel so much better for a pedal than a bike if my legs are a bit sore. So back on the bikes, a few bikes a week. And I really enjoy it. I love it. And it also means I can watch YouTube videos and put my earphones in and the kids can't disturb me. Win-win for everybody. I'm going to focus on my little build-up block, which I just make up as I go along, is on some strength and some speed. So this morning I did a good strength session. Do you want to hear the deets? 10-minute warm-up, 12-minute, 10-minute, 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 8-minute, uphill effort at a just above marathon pace sort of heart rate. Breathing, but you can hold that for... Yeah. You could... I probably would be more that's like an hour heart rate that I could hold for an hour.
Okay, yeah.
Enjoyed that. 2 minutes, like mini jog. Take my gloves on and off in between. And then at the end of that, I'm at the top of the hill and then I run for half an hour at like a sort of race pace, 50K race pace downhill to start a little bit of leg conditioning down the hill.
Get those quads.
Yeah. I might have a fat back, but I've got great quads. Just a little bit faster than I normally would run like on a run downhill. So a little bit of like strengthening the ankles, having to look a little bit where you're going on the trail. It drives me mad because on the way up, I'm going a little bit faster than I normally am on the way up, quite a bit faster. And that Taki then just runs right next to me because she's like, I can't get in front of you because you're going too fast. Lindy obviously is absolutely miles ahead. Then on the way down, she's like 50 meters behind because she's like, I'm not running that fast. And Lindy can't quite get ahead. So she runs just in front of me, just where you want to be looking when you're running downhill of what is on the trail. And she's just right there. And then very occasionally she just stops dead.
Love it.
Oh, I love my training partners. So that's going to be my little focus for like the next 6 to 8 weeks is doing like one strength session like that, which I really enjoy. I really enjoy the grinders. And then Gary, like you said, I'm going to have to start some 6 minutes something, which I'll probably do on the treadmill, something with a 6 in speed. Oh, progression, but I'll definitely have to do a progressive element of that to start off with, because something with a 6 in has not been seen for a while.
I like being back on the treadmill though. Commandos from Netflix. I watch Commandos.
No, you see, I can't. That's when the music would come in heavy.
I've seen on one of my, it's not something I've done yet, but one of the sessions on my training plan, it's like 800 meters up a hill, then like I think a 2-minute jog, and then 800 meters hard down the same hill.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Looking forward to that one.
What are you doing? What are you going to tell me that you're going to do and not actually do?
Well, I've already lobbied the Thirsty Thursday group for this session. So Thursday's session probably is, I'll only talk about really the workout. It's a trail fartlek, but they break it down into basically 12 times 90 seconds. So that could be 90 seconds up a hill, on the flat, or even down a hill. So I have to be a bit careful. I don't want to be too technical. So yeah, you're supposed to be running fast, but you're not really getting in the right zone because what's under your feet is super technical. Try and keep the gym consistent. So if I can get down there twice, that will be enough for me. Old County Tops recce over the weekend, possibly. Something over the lakes. So I'm pretty sure we are going to the lakes. I might see how the week pans out, but yeah, medium long run too. I will do that relatively flat on tarmac. Just so you've got that 10, 11 miles running, not stopping. Like, you know, the trails are lovely. I love the trails, but there's quite a lot of stop start on the trails. I don't do that when I'm on the tarmac. Super exciting. We booked our summer holiday. We're going to Finland to see the family again. And yeah, normally we do stay with family. We will visit them because most of them at least live around Helsinki. But yeah, Airbnb for us. So it's going to be a little bit different. Basically, our kids are a lot bigger, so it's probably not as easy to squeeze them into people's houses and flats. Either way, I just can't wait. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've been to Finland. So yeah, I don't know what the mileage should be or anything like that, but if we can do that one quality session, maybe some strides too, that is the plan. That is the end of another episode of the Tea and Trails podcast. And thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration and Silver Sweetening for sponsoring this week's show. Use the code T24 for 15% off your first order over at Precision Fuel and Hydration. And thanks to our partners and Patreons too. Seriously, we could not do this without you and your ongoing support.
Be kind to your future self. Breathe and believe. Progress, not perfection. Keep your shield high. Hope you all have a great weekend. Is it another bank holiday weekend in England? I mean, it's just epic bank holiday weekend.
There's definitely one coming up. Yeah, I'm not too sure when it is. But
I only know it's bank holiday weekend when I put the radio on and there's somebody different and I'm like, oh.
As a little doff of our cap to Stuart and Joe, be arsed. If any week you should be arsed. Be arsed.
My name is Eddie Sutton.
And my name is Gary Thwaites.
And that was episode 70 of the Tea and Trails podcast. Let's stop when it gets to 100. Let's do 30 more, Gary, and then let's call this time. Because it would go down in legend then. People would just have to listen again.
It's like Fawlty Towers, isn't it? They say it was like awesome, but I think they only did about 13 episodes or something. But
exactly. Right. 100. You guys, you got 30 more. 30 more, and then that's it. Time. Just joking.
Jokes.